Hey everybody, Anna here with ISA Maps Coaching, and with us is
Analeisa Latham. Yes, I'm also with ISA Maps Coaching.
perfect. And we were just laughing because what was it like? I don't know. 3 months ago, Annalisa and I tried to do a webinar, and it was delayed on start because we got the giggles and we could not pull it together. People were like, "Is the webinar starting? Are you guys there? Yeah, we're here. We just could not control ourselves with laughter.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we got it together this time, and we're going to get started here. And really, today's webinar is about goal setting, and it's perfect timing for that. In the business world, October is really the month that starts the next year, because what you do in October, the results usually show up in January on out. And, you know, if you're here, of course, anybody can be on this webinar. So if you're here more from a personal goal setting standpoint, that's great too. Because imagine, have you ever had a year where you started your goal setting in October? Usually people think about that like New Year's Eve, like, oh yeah, what are my resolutions, right? And so I'm super excited to have this topic with you guys today. I know the concept of goal setting has changed my life. I know Annalisa, she's going to share a lot of her story today. It's drastically changed her life. And so we're going to talk about the mindset of goal setting. We're going to talk about a practical tool to help you with goal setting of picking a financial goal for next year. And then we're going to talk about a tool that you can use really every week to review where do I want to be, where am I actually, and how do I stay on track. So you're going to get all of that today. And at the end, if we have time, we'll open it up to questions. And I love group interactions. If you have questions, you can actually go ahead and send them in now. And depending on what it is, we may wait till the end or we may answer it on the spot. So feel free to interact with us. I would love to know, for those of you that are here, just what's your industry, or, you know, if you work from home, that's an industry. That's a lot of work, as Annalisa knows.
Yes.
As a mom. So I would love to know just who's here with us. So type in, what is your job? What's your industry? What do you do? What do you do for fun? Just tell us a little bit about who you are. And while you're doing that, Annalisa, why don't you tell everybody your background and why the topic of goal setting is so important to you personally?
Great. I would love that. So my background, I started in real estate in 2011 in marketing at a actually different franchise here in the upstate of South Carolina, where I still am today. And I always thought, you know, someday I want to do sales as I learn more about the industry and watch people around me. And I was like, but that's not going to happen for a long time because my husband's a student. He's going to go to medical school. I have to be able to support him. I've never done sales before, and so it would be crazy to do that right now. Fast forward a couple years later, 2014, I was given the opportunity to join the Haro group in Greenville, South Carolina. Yes, awesome. The door just opened. It was crazy coincidental timing, coincidental, I say. But the door opened for me to join that team, and then to come on as the listing specialist for the team. So 2014, I joined in May. So first 6 months in the business was me learning it. Again, no sales background at all. And then 2015.
She rocked it despite no sales background. She was a superstar. All right, so.
2015, 2016, I was full-time for almost all of 2016 in the listing specialist role for the Haro group. High production team, sold 78 houses my first 12 months, 83.
Let's stop there for a second. 78 houses her first 12 months, guys, no experience. You do not have to be in the real estate industry to know that is abnormal. So you're abnormal. I had to say it, but in the best kind of way. And 78 homes her first year. So if you're wondering why is she talking about goal setting and how to achieve big things, that's part of why. And that's just one little piece of what she's accomplished. Most agents, if they're an average agent, could sell anywhere from 6 to 12 homes in a year, and 12 is on the high end. So for her to sell 78 is absolutely astonishing. And I know from working with her, yeah, she worked extra hours, but she still went out on dates with her husband, and she had some weekends off. And so there's a lot that we can learn from her today. So I just had to interject because you just kind of breezed by like, I sold 78 homes my first year, and we had to talk about that for a second. Keep going. Tell us.
Right. So 2016, I had my son in August, Elliot. He's 2 now. So sold 83 houses in 2016 and had a good 9 or 10 weeks off for maternity leave. And then fast forward to now, I'm a full-time coach for the ISA group coaching program. I just had my second child, Caroline. She'll be 8 weeks tomorrow. So adjusting to 2 has been fun. So I coach 2 days a week full-time, and then the other 3 days of the week, I'm mom. And it's great. And I love it. And I'm super passionate about goal setting because it's gotten me where I am today, and just thrilled to be able to share my knowledge with you guys.
Yeah, Analeisa, you've done some pretty awesome personal stuff too. I know all of that was kind of work related. So tell them some of what you've done in your personal life as well. Like, I know you've done stuff with running and
So probably my most proud, other than being a mom, my most proud accomplishment outside of work would be the marathon that I ran when I was finishing up college. So I was at a point in life, had faced some difficult things, and just decided I needed to get outside of myself, and found this great organization where I could raise money for a cancer society. And then at the same time, they would train me to run a marathon. So I did that in San Francisco, and wow, learned so much about myself and about positive mindsets, and really doing hard things through that whole process. So that's one of my most proud accomplishments outside of work.
I had no idea that was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So we might need to talk about that later, because now I have all these questions like, how did that happen? But we will save that for later.
Yeah. Okay.
Focus on the goal.
Right.
It's the goal setting conversation.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. So you and I had talked offline about how there was a definite difference from when you joined the world of real estate. And it wasn't so much because of real estate. It was more the tools and techniques and the mindset shift that happened for you once you entered that environment. So talk to everybody. We have, moms on here. We have inside sales agents on here, team owners, just a whole mix of people. What would you say are the core things that shifted for you? You'd run a marathon before real estate, and then you've had even more success since then. Like, what was the difference?
So I was thinking about this after we chatted about that, and I think it boils down to 2 things. The first is the people that I was surrounding myself with. Not that I didn't have good friends before, not that my family isn't still wonderful to this day, but I never was taught to intentionally focus on down the line. I mean, you hear about what do you want people to say about when you die, but do you ever do anything with that today? So that was part of it, is who I was surrounding myself with, and therefore the conversations we were having. And then very closely related to that, I believe, was just giving myself the freedom, the ability, the desire to have dreams. Because again, I really had never done that. You get done with college, you find a job, eventually you get married, you have kids, and then you retire, and then you're done. But actually planning out what I wanted to do in the interim, on the daily, on the monthly, on the weekly, the yearly, whatever it is basis, I had never actually spent any time dreaming. So those are the 2 things that I believe that it boils down to for me.
So who you surround yourself with, and then giving yourself license to dream.
Yeah.
So let me start with the first one.
Okay.
Somebody's saying, okay, so you had friends before. What was different about the people you started hanging around once this shift happened? Like, what, if I'm out there thinking, well, I want to surround myself by a different type of crowd that can help my success. What are the traits of those people?
So the biggest thing that comes to mind when you ask me that is somebody who's entrepreneurial. So go find somebody who is like started their own business. We hear so much about network marketing these days, and I'm not going to say that I love every aspect of network marketing, but there are a lot of people out there who have started a network marketing business and have changed their families' lives. And I bet you've got a friend who's reached out to you on Facebook asking for your business that you probably ignored, just like I do, that you could connect with and be like, I want what you have, not the business, but I want to learn how to dream like you have. So that would be one thing that I would say, like, look for that. Just look around you, because there are people all around who have, who have that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and also, you didn't say this, but it sparked something in my brain, so I will say it. There's something about a to-do list of here's the things I want to accomplish before I die, and you kind of alluded to this, Analeisa. But just last year, I started thinking, who do I want to be? So I can have a to-do list, but I also want to have a to-be. Because what I found for myself last year is I got so wrapped up in the doing of I have this goal, and I have this accomplishment, and I need to save this amount of money, and I need to hire this amount of people, that it's almost like I lost myself in that process of who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So it was like, be a giving person, be someone who's very family and friend relationship oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really points to who you surround yourself with. Think of, for all of you listening, who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Should have just as much of a factor of what do you want to accomplish when you choose those people. If that's who I want to surround, that's the type of person I want to surround myself with.
Yeah.
If you want success, you can find successful business people that are just horrible people. We won't name names. Or you can find successful business people that are awesome people, and you get to choose who you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kelly, by the way. I see you typing in. Awesome. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about who you choose to surround yourself with?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. And as you were talking, it kind of reminds me, or it kind of leads me to the next thing about like allowing yourself to dream. So if I can say a couple of things about that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So the first thing I think that changed my mindset about the ability, giving myself permission to dream, was an exercise that we did in Bold the first time I went to Bold. That class was life-changing for me. Bold, if you're not in Keller Williams, is basically a mindset and growth class that's really beneficial for brand new agents, but also people who have been in the business for years and years and years. So in Bold, you do this exercise called the financial thermostat. So money, when I was growing up, it wasn't like we didn't have money, but we didn't have money for extra things. So my mindset around money was very limited because of my upbringing. Nothing against, any of that. It's just how it was. So in Bold, with the financial thermostat, they have you basically say, like, if the sky was the limit, like, what do you want? And so my wheels were turning that day in class, and I came home, I was talking to my husband, and, oh, well, one day we want a boat, and one day we want a beach house, and, one day we want to be able to give a huge amount of money to a charity of our choosing, like all these fun things that we were so jazzed about because a mindset shift had happened. And I was like, let's dream about things we probably today are like, that's never going to happen. But if you don't ever think about them, that's true. They're never going to happen.
That's a good point. If you never think about them, they will never happen.
Yeah.
Everybody write that down. That's a takeaway. That's good.
I love it. That, and then also a very transformational piece, and it kind of goes back into what you were saying about who you want to be. At the Haro group one year, we always read every morning. We start out the morning with a book, and Haro brought to us the book Living Forward. I think it's by Michael Hyatt, if I'm correct there. You probably have it, yeah. So anyway, that takes you through various segments of your life, and the thing that I took away from that is writing at the end of your life what you want, basically your epitaph to be, what people said about you. And I went through that exercise, and I mean, first of all, I like bawled my eyes out thinking about what people are going to say at my funeral. It was very emotional, but at the same time, it really started to inform who I wanted to be. So, who I wanted to be to my husband, Steven, who I wanted to be to my future kids, because I didn't even have kids then, what I wanted my friends to say about me, and what I would want my family to say about me, or like a stranger who just kind of knew me on Facebook. All of these types of things. And that started to inform who I wanted to be, which has drastically changed the trajectory that I was on, even as a full-time salesperson, to where I am today. So that was another thing, just like allowing myself to dream about what the future, like the end of my life, report looked like, was very transformational in this journey for me.
That's really insightful, Analeisa. I'm really glad you shared that with us. And there's actually, I am by no means a neuroscience major, but I know a lot of people that are really skilled with neuroscience and things like that. And one of them was telling me that your brain thinks differently when you talk about the goal as if it's already happened. So for an example, instead of saying, Analeisa, say that you started today and a year from now, you wanted to be in a different place. What would you need to do over the next 12 months to achieve that goal? Mm-hmm. You may be able to think of some ideas, but the brain can actually start to get overwhelmed with where I am today, where I want to be, and it feels so far apart. Mm-hmm. But if you say, okay, Analeisa, let's say that it is 12 months from now, you and I are at the Grove Park Spa. Oh, yeah. And because we love the Grove Park Spa. We're at the Grove Park Spa. And we're sitting there just talking about life. And you're like, man, I have had the best 12 months that I've ever had in my life. And you look back, what did you do? What made it the best 12 months of your life? Who were you? What did you accomplish? The brain grabs onto that differently than if you're looking forward as if you hadn't started yet. Mm. So if you're on this call and you're thinking, man, I've never thought about some of this before. I know, Analeisa, you just expressed it was a little overwhelming and emotional. I felt the same way. That's okay. Just start with, okay, it's 12 months from now. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking back and I just had the best 12 months I ever had. What did you do? What did you accomplish? Who were you with? And then that will start informing what some of those goals will look like for you. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So Analeisa, before we start getting into some of the practical, and mindset certainly is a practical thing, but some of the actual tools that people use, is there anything else that you want to say about mindset?
I think the other piece that I really learned through goal setting is how important accountability is. And it wasn't just accountability at work to my numbers, but it was accountability to everything else. So like if on my, we're going to talk about the 411 here in a little bit. If on my 411, I couldn't check the box that said I had, made intentional time for a friend this week, or that I had 2 dates with Steven last month. If I didn't check that box, I needed somebody to get in my face and ask me why not. So I think that goes back to who you're going to surround yourself with too. But the mindset of allowing yourself to be accountable to another person, to your goals, and having that community around you was also huge for me.
Yeah, that's big. And I think in that too is having some type of statement that you go back to. So, for example, some people call it affirmations, some people call it truth statements, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But the idea is that you come up with a statement, again, as if it's already happened, and you cling to that. So for example, many of you know that I lost 100 pounds in 7 months. I never thought that I could do that. I had battled my weight since 5th grade, and I was 30 something. We won't get too specific. I started that journey. And I remember being on the treadmill thinking, I just don't know if I can do this. I've never done it before. I've failed many times before. I don't know if I can do it. Mm. And I decided to change the story in my head. And you have to decide. It doesn't just happen. You have to make a decision. Mm. And I remember saying, it will feel amazing. Or no, back up. It feels amazing to be on stage with Diana at a conference and tell everybody how I lost 100 pounds in 7 months. And I just started saying it over and over. It felt like a lie when I started saying that statement to myself. But you know what? After a few weeks of saying that over and over and over, it feels amazing to be on stage telling everyone how I lost 100 pounds. Suddenly, my brain started to catch up with my mouth, and it started to believe that that actually could happen. And you know what? It actually happened. Now, the cool thing is I had never told anyone that that was what I was saying in my head. Well, at the 7-month mark, I went to a conference. This is so cool. Went to a conference and I stood up to ask a question, and up front, Diana's like, get up here. And I went up there and she handed me the mic and she said, tell everybody what you've done. You look amazing. Mm. And I got the mic to tell everyone how I lost 100 pounds in 7 months. I had never told anyone that that was my goal. And so the point is, what you tell yourself has a massive impact on what result you get. So if you tell yourself you're a failure and you're never going to get there, well, then you're going to be a failure and you're not going to get there. If you tell yourself that I can do this and I have the ability to do this, I believe in leaning a lot on God's strength to do things. I can lean on his strength to get this done. You will be able to start doing things. It's all about what you tell yourself in your head. So I just got on my soapbox. I will step back off. So any questions from the crowd on mindset around goal setting before we move into one of the practical tools? And while you guys do that, I'm going to make sure I have all the questions here. All right. So let's go into something called the allocation form. And this is really geared towards people. At the top, you'll see it's kind of geared towards agents. I'm looking for where it is. Let's try. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe Hannah, if you're there, you can help me. Hannah's our guru in the background. I'm trying to share the allocation form. So let me just hit share screen.
Yeah, there you go. Share screen.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. So this is called the allocation form. And up top it says ISA, which is Inside Sales Agent, KW Maps Coaching. But really you could use this for anybody. So Inside Sales Agent tends to be a real estate term. But again, it doesn't matter what your role is, whether you're a mom at home or a business owner or you work at a local store, you could totally use this form. So when I first started goal setting, let me just stop sharing screen for a minute. When I first started goal setting, I remember Haro sat with me in a coffee shop and he was like, Anna, how much money do you want to make next year? I was like, I don't know. And I remember I just picked this random number. And it was really because it was what I had made in my last job. And I thought if I could make what I made in my last job in this job, in my first year of real estate, that would be cool. But I didn't have any money allocated to anything. There wasn't really a reason other than it just sounded like a good number. And what I've learned through being a coach is that's how a lot of people pick their income goals. I'm working with a lot of people right now on what are your 2019 income goals, and they'll tell me a number. And then I'll say, okay, what does the number mean? Or why did you pick that number? I don't know, it just sounded good. And I totally get that because that was me. But here's the real deal, guys, is when it gets to be, June, July, and you realize, okay, I'm a little off course and I'm going to have to put in some extra work. If your emotions, if your heart does not know why that number matters, good luck getting yourself into action. It is just not going to happen unless you're one of those super disciplined people, which I am envious of because I wish I was that way. If you are not emotionally engaged into why you have chosen your goal, and it's going to be very difficult to stick to that goal when things get tough. Mm-hmm. So this is where the allocation form enters. So let me go back and share screen now with a lot more finesse than I did last time. All right. So I think you can see it now, right, Analeisa?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So what you do is you start at the top and it has personal expenses. And this form helps you think. But guys, honestly, I have way more personal expenses than what's on this form. Mm-hmm. It has house payment, food, recreation, credit cards, car payment. But put anything in there that you do. If you get your nails done, put that in there. If you buy, certain things every month, put that in there. Put your gas, put your oil changes. Everything that you do in a year should be in there. And I found this to be kind of overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming for people when they first get started, and I'm going to come back to you. Because if you have never done any type of budget, trying to figure out what something costs you in a year, sitting down and thinking, how much money should I budget for food for a whole year? That can feel enormously overwhelming. And so what you can do is go into your bank account. And a lot of banks these days will even do graphs for you. I stumbled upon that in my own bank recently. I was kind of amazed. Mm-hmm. But even if not, you can still usually figure it out. And I would just go back, say 3 months, and just look at the total withdrawals from your bank account. And then categorize them, like which ones were food, which ones were eating out, which ones were gas, which ones were Walmart, which ones were, school tuition for the kids. And you can start to get an idea. If you take the average per month over the course of 3 months, you should get a pretty good working idea of what your budget is. And then the goal would be from today on out, just start tracking it. So don't beat yourself up for maybe not having a great budget before. There's a little app. I'll see if I can find it real quick on my phone. It's called the Checkbook app. It's really amazing. I'll pull it up, and as long as it doesn't show you all my financials. And it does, so I won't show it to you. But it's called the Checkbook app. And you can download that. And I found that to be super easy because you can categorize everything, and it does all these graphs, and it's free. It's just called the Checkbook app. It's green with a little brown border around it. And you can start today from tracking and making sure you're actually accurate. So really the first step is to start getting clear on, okay, what are my actual personal expenses every single month? What does that look like? And then figure out what that totals up to in a year. If you need to use a separate sheet of paper, go for it. Then you're going to come down here and you're going to add in all of your business expenses. So for those of you in real estate, you probably have a fair amount of business expenses because we are in most part independent contractors. But some of you may have no business expenses depending on what you're doing. So you fill this section out. whatever's appropriate. I'm sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice. And then you add the two together. So you add up all of your personal goals or personal expenses. You add up all your business expenses. And then here's where a lot of people mess up. They forget to count in taxes. So I've done this before. I want to make this much money. And then my budget's way off and I can't figure out why I never have enough money at the end of the month. And it's because I forgot to think about taxes. So if you don't know your tax bracket, just do 30%. I would recommend figuring out what your tax bracket is. It depends on your income and a lot of things. And what you do is you come up with your survive grand total amount. And the idea is that amount is what you need simply to pay your bills and get by. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily doing a bunch of extra stuff. It doesn't mean that life is necessarily overly fun, but it means that you can pay your bills. So what we know is you need at least that. You cannot make less than that or you're not going to survive. And then this section is really for people that are in real estate. So you figure out your commission needs based on that grand total. But if you are, working for yourself or if you're within a company, you would figure out how to make that through whatever way that they pay you. So then you come down here to the second page, and I'll tell you guys how to get this when we're done. I'll send it to you. Then you come down to the second page, and this is where you start to have fun, and you think through what would it take for me to thrive. So for example, if you want a 10-day vacation every year, that might be a $3,600 cost to rent the house, get all the food, do all the stuff that's associated with that 10-day vacation, or maybe it's a cruise. If you want to put money away for a college fund for your kids, okay, monthly cost, let's put $200 a month away. For that monthly cost, that's $2,400 a year, and now you have a yearly cost. So really, this is your dream page. And this is where Analeisa was talking about. Sometimes I just had never thought that way before. This is where you can start thinking that way. So then you come down here, and you add your extra funds, add it to your Thrive page. So you add your Survive page and your Thrive page together, and that is now your total grand income that you're going to want to aim for, and not just aim for, but actually achieve in 2019. So that's the gist of how you use something called the allocation form. Branda says, will you upload the form to the ISA mastermind group? What I can do is actually I'll email it to you. So shoot me an email. Anybody can do this. Just shoot me an email at mapscoachanna. Hannah, maybe you can type this in the box for us. It's maps, M-A-P-S, coach Anna, A-N-N-A @gmail.com, and I'll send it to you. And I have another form I'll send you guys too. Okay, so that's the allocation form. And that really gives you a reason behind the number. So now when it's June or July and maybe you're starting to realize, oh no, I'm a little bit behind goal, but I just don't feel like working extra. Why did I make that goal? I don't know why I'm working for that number. This will help eliminate that. Now you'll know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. So Analeisa, anything that you want to add to that form before we move on to the next tool?
No, I love grain about that. So, knowing how many transactions you need if you're in real estate, you can just totally back into that number and have all of the things you want to dream about there. And that really makes it live for you every single day when you come to work. Like, this is why I need to achieve this.
Right. I'm going to put it back up one more time. So this allocation form here, if you notice, it is made for ISAs. Again, you don't have to be an inside sales agent to use it, of course. But if you look down here, it has minus your yearly base pay. So a lot of ISAs, we have a base pay plus commission. So you take that total minus your base pay, and that tells you how much you need to earn through commission. That's this line right here. Then you figure out how much money you make in commission every time there's a closing, and you divide it out, and that will tell you how many closings you need. So I don't know about you guys, but I have absolutely functioned before where it's like, well, I need this goal because it's what my boss told me I had to have, and so I'm just going to go for it. And I think that can work, but I'd rather have a goal that means something to me personally. And as long as it's the same or higher as my boss's goal, we're going to be in a good place together, because I want at least what he wants, meaning I can make him happy and also hit my goals as well. All right, so that tool, if you would like that allocation form, just shoot me an email, mapscoachanna@gmail.com, and I'll get that out to you. Okay, so the next tool we're going to talk about, this is one of my favorite tools, and I would love to talk about it, but Analeisa is also passionate about it, so I'm going to let her take the stage and share what a 411 tool is. So there's a lot of people in real estate, certainly a lot of people outside of real estate, that are like, what the heck is a 411 tool? What are you talking about? Isn't that the number you call back in the old days when you needed like, what is a 411 tool? So can you explain to everybody, before I put it up, just what's the gist of a 411 tool?
So the 411 to me is, and I mean, the what it's used for is so that you can have annual goals broken down to monthly goals, and then every week of the month. And it's on paper. It's very visual. It's easy to update. It keeps you on track. That's why I personally love it. I think it's very different to have a goal in your head, but to put it on paper and to print that thing out and to put it in your workspace, or to put it like I do on my nightstand and look at it every night when I go to bed and every morning when I wake up, like that's commitment right there.
Yeah.
You know? And so that, I mean, that's why I love this tool, is because it makes it very visual for you to see.
Yeah. So the idea is you take your annual goals, and honestly, Analeisa, do you know what the 411 actually stands for?
4 weeks of the month, 1 month, 1 year, I think.
I was like, what is it? It stands for something. I was like, what is it? I know. Listen, we know how to use it and we get stuff done. Okay, that is all that matters. It's 4 categories, and then 1 year, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the idea is you pick your annual goals, and that's part of why you want to start thinking about it now. I remember the first time Hara was like, what do you want to accomplish next year? I mean, it took me a good probably 2 to 3 hours, because my brain was just exploding with, I've never thought this way. And so what you want to do is sit down and think through, what do you want to accomplish in the next year? And I'll give you some common categories, and then I'll pull up Analeisa's 411 for us to look at. Common categories are business. So what do you want to accomplish in your business life in the next year? You also have personal. So for me, that's things like, I was working on mine today, actually. I put down 208 podcasts next year in 2019. And it's because I'm a huge podcast listener for my personal growth, and I want to listen to at least 4 a week. 4 times 52 is 208. So on my annual goal, it says 208 podcasts. Because if I'm doing that, it's going to keep me on track. You could have health goals on there. Financial goals is another category that's very common. And really just come up with 4 categories of your life that you want to work on over the next year, and think through, okay, it's a year from now, I've had the best year I've ever had. What did I accomplish? And that goes on that top line. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to share yours, Analeisa.
Okay.
And the screen, I can't see it once I share.
Okay. So
can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. And Analeisa is a big achiever, so she has 5 categories instead of 4. So why don't you walk us through how you use this tool?
Okay.
I know nothing.
Yeah, totally. All right. So you can see the top there, what my categories are. So the very first one, that's your job. So mine is coaching. If you're an agent, it could say, your agent business. If you're an ISA, it could say your ISA business, whatever the flavor is. That's mine is coaching. The next one over is our financial goals. And my husband is a very big part of this. So this has to do really with our family finances. Obviously the next one is for Steven and the kids. The next one is just for me, like that. All of this 411 is about me, but there are things like that I want to do personally or professionally that I just felt like I needed to break out. And then family and friends is my final category there.
Perfect.
So you can see there across the top, I have my annual goals. I'm not going to read through all of them, but, I want 40 clients by the end of the year. We want to be debt free. I want to have intentional time with Steven, with my kids, whatever you want to look back on. Like Anna was saying, over the last 12 months, this has been the best 12 months. This is how I came up with my annual goals. What do I want to be said on December 31st that made 2018 the best year yet?
Yeah. I just have a question for you. When you did that,
Mm-hmm.
and you sat down and started working on it, what was your process? Was it like I sit down and figure this out all in one day, or I give myself a couple weeks? Just what is your process?
So good question. That book that I referenced, the Living Forward, yes. So every year I try to take a day. Hasn't happened yet for this year, but I try to take a day to get away, get out of the house, get away from everybody that I know in a quiet spot, somewhere enjoyable, like, the Grove Park Spa. And just,
I need to go in the 411.
and like look through my life plan. So, again, going back to what do I want said about me at the end of my life, and what does that mean I need to do this year? So taking a whole day to plan out a year is my process. And it doesn't have to look like that. It's not going to look like that for me this year just because of logistics sake. But I have on my 411 actually for this week to start planning 2019. So I'm going to spend 2 dedicated hours looking back to say, here's what I accomplished this year. Here's what I need to do next year, so that by the end of my life, I'm working towards those things that I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a similar thing. I go up to, there's a little coffee shop about 2 hours from here. But it's a beautiful drive up in the mountains. It's like 10 degrees cooler, and it's called Buck's Coffee Shop. And they have these huge leather chairs with one huge, massive round table. And I go every year, and the way I do it, just giving you different ideas because everybody's wired differently. I get blank pieces of paper, kind of like this, and I just I usually lay out 4 to 6 different pieces of paper. And I have like the health piece of paper, and then I have the business piece of paper, and then I have the conferences piece of paper, and the personal piece of paper. And that way, as ideas come to mind, I jot it down on whichever paper is appropriate, and it keeps it somewhat organized. And then usually by the end of the day, it's okay, let me gather all these together. And out of all the ideas, start picking the ones that I really, truly want to work on, and those go on that top line. So that's one way that you can as well. So the point is, get away. If you need to do it in an hour chunk here and an hour chunk there, that's fine. If you can do a whole day, that's great. But this isn't just going to happen as you're driving in the car. I mean, you're going to need to sit down and really brainstorm and think. It will be well worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me get your 411 back up there and talk to us about this month line, the next line down.
Okay, so the month is, again, I mean, it's obvious. That's what I need to accomplish this month. And they're bigger. They're not broken down super small. I want to have, I want to listen to 4 podcasts a week. That's pretty small. But like I want to lose 5 pounds this month. I got baby weight to get rid of. Like that's on there. I want to go on a ladies retreat with church. Those types of things. Like as I look ahead at the end of one month to the next month, I go through the calendar, I see what's happening. And then I look back on my annual goals and say, all right, if I want 40 clients by the end of this year, I'm at 33. How many do I need to add this month? We've got September, October, November, December left. So divide that out and decide how many you need to add, how many transactions you need to close, how many new clients you need to take, whatever it is. That's what goes in the monthly categories there.
Yeah.
And then taking that down week by week. So that's how I break down the month. So if I want to add, if I want to add 2 new clients this month, that means I got to do some prospecting. So you can see that's added on there, how literally how many minutes I'm going to prospect this week. I have on there that I want to read to Elliot, my son, every single day. So that's a monthly goal. So I have it down there under the weeks to read to EGL daily.
Training book. I love it. But guys, that's what you put on here is you've got to get super specific is what are you reading? Because the more specific you are, the more likely it is to happen.
So true. It's so true. So that's how you just, take your annual goal, break it down every month, and then break down the monthly goals into the week. And then it's your plan. It's how you need to move forward in order to accomplish the goals that you've set for yourself.
Yeah. Perfect. So, all right. I think we're back on video. So thank you for sharing that with us, Analeisa. And so I'm kind of curious, just for the audience out there, if you would type in, how are you doing with this concept of the 411? Because some people get it immediately And then other times, this is how I was, because I used to not really be a spreadsheet person. My brain was just like, I'm having trouble computing this right now. If you're like how I was, I'm looking for a piece of paper here. I should have brought it in here because I'm working on my 411 right now. And what I do that helps me is I've printed it out, and I really never do mine electronically. Mine is always by hand. And Haro taught us both how to do this, so credit to Haro. And what we did at the Haro group that I found to be the most successful was every week on Friday morning, because you're going to have to make a routine around this. Every week on Friday morning, what was it, Analeisa? Like 30 minutes? It was not that long.
It was an hour every Friday.
An hour every Friday. And guys, it takes intentionality, right? Analeisa, are you do you love sitting still and looking at a plan?
I hate it. I hate it.
I used to hear this concept of like, a 411 time. Like, this sounds like just torture. And truthfully, it just took a couple weeks of seeing how much more momentum it gave me in all areas of life. That it's like, that would be like saying, I don't ever want to sleep because I have to sit still to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't function pretty soon if you don't sleep. And it's the same idea with this. You're not going to accomplish things on the same level if you don't slow down for a minute to actually think about your goals. And so it looked like every Friday, it sounds like an hour, and you would look at the week ahead, and it allowed for micro adjustments. And actually, I'm going to see something. I'm going to try sharing a different screen this time. It's not in the application, so let's see if it works. Yep, here we go. I'm going to share with you an ISA one because I know a lot of you are ISAs that are listening to this right now. And let's look at this set 405 appointments. So can you see this, Analeisa?
Yes, I can see that.
Cool. So at some point in time, I must have thought that 405 appointments was the number I needed through doing the math to get me to my income goal. So that's where that came from. And if you look, we're just going to look at number 1 all the way down. So set 405 appointments. Well, and let me make that a little bit bigger. It looks like that is every month it's set 34 because 405 divided by 12 is 34 appointments. So I need to set 34 appointments this month. Well, if I go down and divide 34 by 4, that helps me figure out, okay, I need to be setting on average 9 a week. Well, in week 1, I actually only set 8. And so I got an X, and look what happened to week 2 is now I need to set 10. And it's because I have my normal 9 plus the 1 I missed from last week. Well, I have a check mark that means it got done. So now I'm back to setting 9. The idea there is that it keeps you, I think of it kind of like if you're bowling and they put up the little, what do they call those things that they put up in the
bumpers?
Yeah, the bumpers. I look at it kind of like if you're bowling and you have the bumpers up, your ball might get a little off course as it goes down the lane, but it's going to make it down the lane and it is going to knock something over. It's not going to look perfect, but because the bumpers are there, I'm never going to get that far off course as I make my way down the track. And that's the purpose of the 411. You are not a failure if you said, I'm going to set 8 appointments and you ended up setting 9. Oh, wait. Yeah, you're definitely, y'all, I'm tired. Yeah, you're definitely not a failure if you, in case you were curious about that. You said, I'm going to set 9 and you set 8 is what I was trying to say. If you said, I'm going to set 9 and you set 8, it's not like, oh man, you are this total failure this week. You got an X. No, the point of that is simply so that once a week, and for us, it was Friday mornings, once a week you sit down and you realize, okay, I just need to make up 1. I can make up 1 and get right back on track. But if you don't check this thing for 3 months or even 1 month, you might now be 5 off. Well, to make 5 up is just absolutely overwhelming. That's like doubling your goal versus just 1 more. So that's the idea is as you do this 411 and you look at it weekly, the goal is not perfection, but the goal is to keep you on track with the bumpers going down the lane. Okay, let me read some of these. So Mandy says, I love that she made titles for each column personal. Yeah, totally agree. And by the way, we can send this to you. So if you email me, it's just mapscoachanna@gmail.com. Maybe just put in the subject line webinar tools so I know what you're talking about. And I'll just send you back the 411 and I will send you the allocation form. Okay, Bill, it's a process I could follow. Yeah, trust me, Bill, if I can follow it, you can follow it because I am so not a spreadsheet person. And it honestly became super clear and made life awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tyler says the same thing. Yeah, it's changed my life. I mean, I talked about affirmations earlier to lose the 100 pounds. I also had on my 411, I knew exactly how much weight I had to lose every single week to lose the 100 pounds in 7 months. And it made it all of a sudden just not that scary. I know in coaching people, a lot of times they'll have this big, scary goal, and it's like, I can't even wrap my brain around this. And Analeisa, you probably remember this at the Haro group. Sometimes you would have these, take 90 listings in 90 days. That feels overwhelming, especially when you're the listing agent. Setting listing appointments, like, I can do this. And I remember the day that Haro pulled our whole team together, and everybody was in a funk, like, oh, I don't know. I don't think we can do this. And I remember he did the math, and I remember the number because it left such an impact on me. He was like, okay, how many people do we have in the room? And he counted the room. He counted how many appointments we had to set to get the listings. And it was like 1.15 appointments a day on average per person. And we would actually hit our 90-day goal. And when he did that, the whole room suddenly was like, oh, well, it would be stupid if we couldn't do that. I mean, when you put it that way. So that's the value of the 411 is it takes this massive goal, like be debt free or listen to 208 podcasts in a year. And it breaks it down into this very simple weekly and then even daily goal. And all of a sudden it's no big deal. The most common thing I see in using the 411 tool with people is they get to where they're breaking it down into the weekly or the daily. And the most common thing I hear is I should up my goal. I think I can do more. Because when you're on that annual goal, it's like, okay, I can't even think. It suddenly becomes very clear. So Analeisa, what else, if anything, do you have to add to that 411 conversation?
That piece that you just hit on there at the end, just breaking it down. I mean, it's the same thing if you're into sports. Like when I ran a marathon, like I didn't go out there and do 26.2 miles without 5 months of training. And, I didn't do 5 months of training without knowing what I needed to do every single morning at 5:15 a.m.,
Yeah.
So, and it was easy, like, 2 miles. I can do that, So that piece is huge. And then being able to make those micro adjustments. You're right. If you don't look at it for forever, you're way off. But if you're intentional about looking at it every single day, the things that you can achieve with that tool are just outrageously amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I just thought of this book, The Compound Effect. One of my coaching clients, actually, Mickey, sent it to me. Because his name is in there. Mickey sent this to me, and it was so good. It's the compound effect. And it's basically the idea how a whole bunch of little things add up to massive results over time. I love science because I think it's a great example of just life principles. And there's the principle of the 1 degree. Some of you may have heard this before. But if you were 1 degree off course, when you consider all the degrees that there are, 1 degree off course does not seem like a very big deal, right? So if I'm on a degree off course and I walk to my mailbox out there, so it's not really going to be that big of a deal. I might have to take like 1 half step over and I'll be where I wanted to be. But if you're 1 degree off course and you circle the globe, you end up 494 miles off course. So that's like saying, I'm going to start in DC and you're actually going to end up in Boston. That's the difference of 1 degree. So imagine on that 411, you don't have to have these big crazy things on there. What if you just said, you know what, I'm going to start walking a mile every single day. Or I'm going to start drinking a gallon of water 5 out of 7 days a week. And that will help my health and my energy levels. That seems like such a teeny tiny thing. But then you add time to it and think of where you could be a whole year from now. Just from that one little teeny tiny 1 degree thing. So if you're loving this conversation right now, I highly recommend that you check out this book, The Compound Effect. Thank you, Mickey, for giving me this book. That was awesome and a nice surprise, and I have absolutely loved it. So check that out. So why don't we go ahead and wrap this up? If you guys have questions, go ahead and type it in. Analeisa is absolutely amazing. That's one reason I brought her on as one of the ISA coaches, because I knew she would be a rock star. And her clients are really just love working with her. And so, Analeisa, why don't you tell people where they can find more information about the program if they're interested or want to link up with you? And guys, if you say, I would just love to talk to her more, I don't know that I'm ready to have a coach just yet, that's fine. there's a website they can go to. Do you know what that is, Analeisa?
Yes, it's isamapscoaching.com, correct?
Yeah, I was like, Analeisa, why don't you announce something that I don't know if you know?
Yeah, totally. Go there. You can find more information about the program. You can connect with me there. There's other webinars like this one that you can watch as well. Just a lot of really great resources. And if you want to chat, I'm totally up for that.
Yeah, and actually, I'll just share a screen real quick so you guys can see what's on there, because there's a lot of free resources that you can check out. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
I don't know why I cannot see what you guys can see. Okay. So this is isamapscoaching.com. And obviously, if you want to talk to a coach, you click here and you don't get some weird person somewhere else. You actually get me, Analeisa, Katie, Sept, Sarah, Alana, one of the other coaches. Or if you know that you want to enroll, you can do that. And we'll talk about the program in just a second and what that looks like. But if you come here to webinars, I love this. You can actually see that's Katie. I love her. She's hilarious. I mean, hilarious. Every time I hang out with her, I can't stop laughing. She's awesome. Katie has some webinars on here. She sold 144 homes her first year. Her first year, guys, 144 homes. Really amazing. So you have a lot that you can learn from her. She's got a webinar here. Here we are laughing. Here's Analeisa and I talking about how to take control of your calendar. This is the day that Analeisa and I could not control ourselves with laughter. So there's a lot of good stuff on here. Here's Haro and I talking about the right habits of success. That's an older one. You can check that one out. So the point is we've created this website to have a lot of resources for you. Also, you can click here and there's a little video I did about how the ISA program works. So if you want to know more about the program, you can watch this little video. It's about 5 minutes and we'll talk about that. So that's really the gist of what we wanted to share with you guys today. And hopefully that inspires you to set some big goals. It is safe to say that had I not been introduced to these goals, there is absolutely no way I would be where I am today without the tools that I've been given. My goals have drastically changed. I would say 5 years ago, my goals now, it's almost laughable what I used to want to do compared to what I think about now. I used to think, man, it'd be cool to have a lake house on Lake Lore. That actually feels completely possible now at this point. I used to think, man, it would be cool to work from home. Well, I now work from home about 3 days a week. 3 days a week, guys. Analeisa is saying she works 2 days a week. I never would have thought that that was possible had you asked me this 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. And it all started with these tools, the 411 and then the allocation form. So again, if you want those tools, just email me at mapscoachanna@gmail.com. If you want to know more about the program, go to isamapscoaching.com. And then Analeisa, why don't you tell everybody your direct email if they want to get in touch with you directly?
Yeah, so it's AJD Latham, and that's LATHAM @gmail.com.
Perfect. AJDLatham@gmail.com. I finally got it memorized. Every time I went to email you, I was like, what is it? So now, I have it memorized. All right, guys. So if there's any questions, thank you, somebody, for typing that in for us. If there's any questions, type them in now. If not, we're going to go ahead and let you go. Anybody? By the way, while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to make a total plug for kwcares.org. I heard you guys talking about the hurricane, and I'm just curious, depending on where you live, please type in, I'm curious, are they talking about the hurricane anymore on your news? I'm just curious. Because what I have realized, I just came from the coast, it is totally flooded. I was driving through Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, getting to Wilmington, and Wilmington was basically like an island. And as I was driving, guys, roads were still flooding. There were roads that were open when I left that I had to then get away from and find a different route because they were still flooding a week later after the hurricane. And what it is a Hurricane Florence went up the coast and they dumped trillions of water, and it all drains back out the Cape Fear River, which is through Wilmington. And so the river is actually cresting right now. I think it's done tomorrow. So there's flooding that wasn't going on. People think the hurricane's over or that that there's no impact anymore. And actually it's still pretty severe and getting worse. And so if you are with Keller Williams and you want to donate, go to kwcares.org. There's significant need. We were there. I left yesterday, and there were still agents whose houses were underwater up to the roof line. You could only see the roof. And they have no way of getting in, and it's not getting any better. So if you guys would just, first of all, pray for that. And then if you feel so led, donate to kwcares.org. That would be a huge help in getting our associates back up and running. All right, it looks like we don't have any questions coming in, so we're going to let you guys go. Thank you, Analeisa, for your time today. And again, just mapscoachanna@gmail.com, and I'll get those 2 tools emailed over to you. Have a great day, guys.